Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. There's going to be a couple of videos linked in the description below. The first one is going to be from Plastic Scotsman, who, no, he isn't plastic, believe it or not. And the other one is from a channel named Guardian Mose and Christ's Kingdom, I believe it is, and I hope I've got the name right. I'd hate to butcher someone's channel name. But these videos I'm going to be talking about, the first one is going to be about what happened in Manchester with Nick Tenconi, because he went out of his way to do a protest, to basically protest for the victims of the surprise sex groups of people, you know, from the religion of Bell End churches, the one that prophesies about a snack bar. I think you know who I mean. Those are the ones that were predominantly committing the surprise sex. But Nick Tenconi went out of his way to do a little protest, a little demonstration in Manchester. And of course, we had greater in name only Chester Police, or sorry, Manchester Police, but you know who I mean. Or maybe I was right first time with the great in name only. But I digress. These people, as we all know, are part of the two-tier policing system, the two-tier policing society, which if it were down to me at this point, I'd have people chanting it all the way down the street. But obviously this issue about the R groups of people is a very serious one, because thousands, tens of thousands of innocent English girls have been violated by these men. Well, I say men loosely, because really they're subhuman scum. Anybody that goes out of their way to have their way with a 10-year-old or whatever, in my case, in my humble opinion, you're nothing but scum in my eyes. I'd even dare to use the word vermin. And we certainly have an infestation of these vermin, that's for sure. That's the thing with people like me. I'm not afraid to say it how it is. And I accept that Nick Tenconi is also a bit of a blunt speaker, but he hasn't met me. If Nick Tenconi was a sledgehammer, I am an atomic bomb. But what really happened up there, what happened eventually, was there was one particular officer of great in name only Manchester Police who is named Officer 12343. No, I'm not trying to count forwards and backwards, that is his number, but Officer 12343 decided he was going to physically push Nick Tenconi. Physical assault. And because of this, an elderly man also ended up getting pushed to the floor on a set of stairs, no less. And I ask you, what would have happened if he fell down those stairs? He could have been seriously injured by this careless political officer. So as well as me demanding his resignation on Twitter, I am stroke number one, requesting his resignation here on YouTube as well. And that was me thinking I was actually going healthy again. Anyway, he needs to resign, because what he did was just plain dangerous. Oh, but I guarantee you, if it was the Palestinian snowflakes, if it was Just Stop Oil, or in this case, if it's the far left NPCs who support the trans ideology in Palestine, will anything happen? Well, of course it would, because the lefties would see it as an outrage and the mainstream media would lap it up. But since it's our side, no, they won't report this. Like I said, that man who was behind Nick Tenconi could have been seriously injured or worse because of this officer's actions. And the officer at this point, I'm using that word in quotations. I mean, at this point, the officer is about as qualified for his job as I am qualified to be a high wire walker. Who said I brought the wire down? Shut up, you. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that police officer has no business being an officer. I mean, could you imagine if I was a lollipop man? Yes, I probably wouldn't stop licking it. But anyway, imagine if I was the lollipop man and I ended up hitting people in the back of the head with the lollipop itself. The stop sign. I would be hoofed out of that job, just like that, because they wouldn't put up with that. But I suspect what's going to happen more than anything is this two-tier officer, this wanker, is probably going to get a promotion and a salary increase at our expense. Bearing in mind as well, I haven't even pointed out this bit because I want to point out the atrocious behaviour of the officer first. But the counter-protesters, the Hope Not Hate and the Stand Up to Racism NPCs, they were all throwing objects at the protesters. They were going out of their way to throw eggs and water bottles at people. Do you remember what happened when so-called far-right protesters went out of their way to throw that kind of shit? The Battens came out and they started clubbing people. But because it's Stand Up to Racism, who are about as lovely as a piss on an electric wire, nothing ever gets done about it. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. So it makes you wonder, why the fuck are these people allowed to get away with this? And the answer is very simple. Much like the Bell End church worshippers, the ones of Allen Snack Bar, these guys are a mascot group. And because of that, they'll be protected like the king's firstborn son. People wonder why tensions are running high. People wonder why people are getting pissed off. People wonder why there is talk of a civil W. And you can obviously fill in the blanks. So when I say civil blank, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I want to get around this algorithm where you fascists, sorry, YouTube, or again, maybe I was right first time, can't go out of their way to automatically censor my videos. Because as I said before, back in the day, I was getting at least 1,000 or 2,000 views per video. Now I'll be lucky in the first 24 hours if my videos see 500 videos. And that is simply because YouTube is a left-wing Silicon Valley group that will always do everything it can to prioritize putting up left-wing videos, even if it promotes T or incites V. But we can't even say certain words before the algorithm takes us out, put simply. But I would put this to greater in name only Manchester Police. When are you going to do your fucking job and actually police properly? Because if you don't start policing properly, the people are going to do it for you, and you're not going to like the way they do it. Because here's the thing, people are sick and tired of watching two-tier policing go on in this country. They are sick and tired of one side getting preferential treatment, whereas the other side, if they even step a hair out of line, they get battens drawn on them in an instant. It is not right, and it is not just policing. It is brutality, I would dare to say. It is police brutality when the police are going out of their way to actively smash the living shit out of ordinary patriots for merely being aggravated that our two-tier police are prioritising the people that are violating our women and children. There comes a time where tensions will boil over. And as I said, if you won't do your job, British police, the people are going to do it for you. And you are not going to like the way they do it, because they don't have a kid gloves approach like you wankers do. They will take a far more robust approach and, metaphorically speaking, take out the trash. Speaking of trash, there was also I think there was an OAP, I think there's a brief clip on Twitter where apparently some OAP was getting blocked by some what looked like Extinction Rebellion wankers again, in the middle of a fucking supermarket, no less. I know this is going off on a tangent a bit, and don't worry, we'll come back to the second video in a moment. But why is it these people are now going out of their way to actively block people from doing their damn shopping? Like, you're not actually getting people on your side. You're just pissing more people off. And then these NPCs go out of their way to say, oh, we're really sorry, but we have to address this. No, you're not sorry, because if you were fucking sorry, you wouldn't do it, period. You wouldn't go out of your way to disrupt other people's lives. How is it just for people, ordinary people, who are doing their fucking shopping, how is it right for them to be blocked when, for all we know, they may not even be part of the problem? In fact, ironically, it's usually the protesters themselves and the companies they worship that are usually the problem. But now I've got that little tidbit out of my system, let's now go on to the second video, which is the one that Plastic Scotsman put up, which, as I said before, it'll be linked in the description below. So, Plastic Scotsman basically has ended up putting up a video where his brother, who is a Royal Marines commando, so he is part of, or is trying to be recruited for, the part of, one of the best fighting forces in the world. I'd probably say second only to the SAS. This brother, well, from what I understand of the situation, apparently the government or the Royal Marine Commandos or whatever, the top brass, if you will, from what I understand, they were trying to lower the standards, as it were, of what it takes to become a Royal Marines Commando, so that then they could try and get more women in there. And let me be clear, there are probably some women out there who would be able to kick a man's ass in the Royal Marine Commandos. I'm not saying that women can't be Royal Marine Commandos, but what I am saying is that the standards shouldn't drop so that it's easier for people who would normally not meet the prerequisites to be able to join the Royal Marine Commandos. And I'll tell you why. So, obviously, the man upstairs did not create man and woman as equal. Women are physically weaker than men in most cases. Notice how I say most cases. Obviously, there are some women who will outclass men. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some that outclass me. Because, obviously, I'm not exactly sitting here like fucking Eddie Hall or whatever the strongest man in the UK is. I'm not claiming to be a giant monster of a man. But what I am saying is that not every woman is going to be packing a six-pack and have muscles as big as stroke number 2. God damn it. As strong as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They don't have the muscles like him. Why do you have to come along when I'm having a stroke? Jesus Christ. But anyway, women aren't always going to be that strong. In fact, more often than not, they're not going to have the strength, the skills, and the determination like a man would. That's not me trying to be sexist. That's not me hating on women. This is just me pointing out the cold, bitter truth, the facts, as it were. Because not every woman is going to be built the same. Not every woman is going to be able to tack it. Men are more likely to, because they're built to be physically stronger. Therefore, it stands to reason why women shouldn't really be getting too many roles within the Royal Marine Commandos, as it takes a special kind of someone to be able to do it. Oh god, I might have one of these pissing tannoy systems again. Oh, that's going to get on my tits. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, more often than not, it is going to be...
Diamond Road.
Fuck you. It is going to be men who are more likely to get that position in the Royal Marine Commandos. Because, as said, they're more built for it. They are more capable of being strong enough for it. Again, I'm not trying to put women down. I am just saying what is a biological fact. Men are naturally stronger than women in most cases. I mean, I'd be lying if I said the opposite was true. That is why, if we're lowering the standards, we're more likely to get even weaker women in that particular role. And at best, this could be considered negligence. And as far as the person getting recruited is concerned, they could be seen as incompetent. In a worst case scenario, it's going to put the entire regiment in danger because they're having to pick up their slack. Of course, it hurts me to say that shit, but as I said, the cold bitter truth doesn't care about facts or feelings, quite frankly.
The next stop is Vulcan Road Bus Depot.
Shut up, you. Anyway, that's the truth. We can't lower the standards of the Royal Marine Commandos. There's a reason they're called the Royal Marine Commandos. It's because it brings the absolute best of the best out of people. If we take that away from the people who've already got in, then it is effectively going to make it so that those already in the Royal Marine Corps, or sorry, Commandos, are going to end up having to work even harder still, just so that the people who are now being brought in to the Royal Marine Commandos because of DEI are basically going to have to redouble their efforts to make sure they can do their job. And that shouldn't be how it works. The army is not a place for children. It's not a place for people to have lovey-dovey thoughts and thoughts of sunshine, lollipops and rainbows. The cold bitter truth is, when people... If that woman doesn't shut up. It is about having men basically trained to kill, with the very odd select exception of the odd woman being able to kill. I am going to destroy that thing. Where's that sledgehammer? But the army is basically meant to train soldiers to learn how to end other people's free trial of life, put simply. And the moment we start bringing in people that do not have the ability to follow orders or have the mettle to be able to stand up to big burly men shouting orders at you and all that other stuff, do you know what's going to happen? People are going to die. And that's exactly what the brother of Plastic Scotsman was saying. He was addressing his concerns that if the Royal Marine Commandos drop their standards to allow people of lower caliber into the Royal Marines, it is going to get people killed. He is quite right to say that, and there are quite a few other people who have actively been saying that in the Royal Marine Commandos. If you start lowering your standards, you are going to see more situations where the liabilities become real. I swear to God, they're going to become real problems, much like this tannoy system, and they're going to lead to people getting killed. Just like that. And I think we all know the real reason why they're doing this. They're doing this so they can get more people into the commandos to send off to fight, blank, that has nothing to do with us. Do you know what this reminds me of? What I said before. This is basically going to be meat in a grinder. It's not even going to be people to serve their country and do Britain proud. It's going to be sacrificial lambs to throw against Putin in a blank, as said, that's nothing to do with us, and it will be sending people to their deaths. But what I think is even more sinister is the fact that the top brass then started to instigate a witch hunt to try and find this brother or whoever it was that put the petition up to say we mustn't do this. And it really begs the question, why would they want to witch hunt their own Royal Marine Commandos? Beat you this time, fucker. Anyway, why would they want to go after their own Royal Marine Commandos for going against this DEI narrative? Because that's blatantly what it is. Why is that? Well, thankfully, there's something that these Royal Marine Commandos have that clearly our top brass don't. It's called principles. Because what you'll notice is that none of these Royal Marine Commandos ratted out anybody as far as this is concerned. It seems that these men will always have bigger balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, than the top brass who are supposed to be leading the Royal Marine Commandos. Thank you. And now I can safely escape the tannoy system, evil bitch. Anyway, they have more principles than these people in the Royal Marine Commandos at the top brass. And why the fuck should anybody have to rat out their comrades, their brothers in arms, if you will, that are willing to stand up to something that would effectively weaken one of the strongest forces in the world? They have every right to stand up to that, and any wanker in the top brass that wants to go after them is not fit to serve. Except maybe in a cafeteria, but that's about it. I do sincerely hope that this brother ends up having that petition win, because he thoroughly deserves it. We should not be lowering our standards for people who shouldn't really be qualifying for this shit in the first place. And I'd just like to reiterate, this is not me saying that women shouldn't serve in the Royal Marine Commandos, or if I can't serve, it's more a matter of those who don't have the skill set shouldn't be in there. I mean, let me put another scenario to you as I walk under the influence of Lucozade. Let's say you have got two people who want to apply to join the regular army. One person is a fighting fit male that has been born and bred in Britain, that has actually had a lot of physical experience. Sorry, there was a wasp there. A lot of physical experience, knows how to follow orders, is loyal, and I don't know, they were winner of the 100 meters or something while in their school team or something. Let's say that. And then you have another person who is a woman who has not really done much in their life, who the fastest they've ever run to is when they go to McDonald's. Who said that was me? Shut up, you. No, a woman, the fastest they go is when it comes down to going to McDonald's. They haven't really got any commitments. They don't like taking orders, etc., etc. You see where I'm going with this? Who would you rather have? Would you rather have the man that's capable of following orders, that is able to do the job and has the skills to pay the bills? Or would you rather somebody who is completely not fit for purpose? I think I know what I would rather pick. Not me, that's for sure. That's the way I look at it. What I'm trying to say is, we should be recruiting people in the army, let alone the Royal Marine Commandos, who actually have the ability to meet those prerequisites, not people who tick a box. Do you know what this whole thing reminds me of? It reminds me of those adverts where they were preaching about, oh, I need to pray in battle because of my faith, my religion. No, because you know what's going to happen if you're sitting there praying in the middle of the field? Ding! That's what's going to fucking happen, quite frankly. Likewise, what do you think is going to happen if someone can't pull their weight? One of two things is going to happen. The person who can't pull their weight is going to get shot, or the people who have to drag them over the finishing line, as it were, are going to get shot themselves. And I don't know about you, but if there's someone who is weighing down the group to the point where it's becoming a massive hindrance, if it was me, I'd expect people to leave me, quite frankly. And I'd do the bloody same, because it's a matter of, if someone's dragging you down, if someone's wrapped a giant anchor around your fucking legs and they're dragging you down to the bottom of the ocean, you're not going to let them do that, are you? No. Every man for himself. And all encouraging weaker candidates to join this group of people. And actually, I think they were trying to force people to join. Force weaker women to join. That is not going to go down well. That is going to go down like a lead balloon, quite frankly. Think about it. It takes a very strong woman as it is, even stronger than some men, to be able to be a woman in the army who's able to follow the orders from the top brass and be able to carry out their duties as is required by a soldier. How much of a hard time do you think they're going to have in the Royal Marine Commandos? If they thought the army was hard, they hadn't seen anything yet. Why else is it that you see almost no women in the SAS, for example? You see almost no women in, like, the Royal Marines or the US Marines or whatever their special program is. Why do you think that is? It's because the women are physically weaker in most cases, and they're not going to have the skill set that a lot of men are going to have. That is the cold, bitter truth. And we can't pretend that hiring women that are of lower caliber than already what should be a pretty hard bar for women to achieve. If you start lowering that shit, you're going to have all sorts of people come through that are about as fit for duty as I am to go to the moon. You got no hope of getting them across the finish line if you're bringing in people who wouldn't be able to cut even half of the quality standards of the Royal Marine Commandos. Like, I know full well, if it came down to my fitness in the army, if it was back in ye oldie days, they'd tell me to fuck off, just like that. Because I would not be able to fulfill the fitness tests and all that. Oh, I might be able to follow orders, although I might get a bit bitchy if you accuse me of something I haven't done. But I could ultimately follow orders. How else am I still working in my job right now? But I digress. The bottom line, as far as this second video is concerned, this brother who is getting witch hunted by the top brass, is he has every fucking right to declare his concerns if something is going to effectively make either him or his core weaker in the RMC. He has every right to do that. And it's sad that we have to have this conversation about this shit when Keir the traitor Starmer has been caught lying through his teeth saying that we are a free speech society. No, you know what we are? We are the two-tier policing society. We are the two-tier justice society. We are the two-class society. It's either the working class or the oligarchy. And again, the mainstream media won't tell you that. Oh, and what is this? I'll tell you what it is. It's more green crap. Do you know what I do with green crap? Oh, that didn't rip very well, did it? Oh, fuck off. They've designed this too well, goddammit. I have to spend like 20 years ripping this shit up. Oh, you wankers. I'll get you for this. I'll get you for this, Green Party. You mark my words. I'm going to send very, very hard to rip up paper from your fucking letterbox and see how you like it. Much better. But yes, the way I see it is that the standards of the Royal Marine Commandos should not drop for anyone or anything or any religion. That's the way it should be. You should get in based off of, have you got the skills? Can you do the job? If you can do the job and you meet the prerequisites, we want you. If you don't, fuck off, bluntly speaking. That's how it should be. It should not be, oh, you're a woman, well, you tick this box, or you're a Hindu, so you tick that box, you can come in. Like, no! Because you know what would happen? The RMC would become a laughing stock. And I don't think this brother wants that, quite frankly. More importantly, he doesn't want to be dragged down by DEI, because he knows it's an anchor around people's feet. Nobody wants to see their career go down the pan. I accept that. But he actually has the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to stand up and say, you know what, this is wrong, and we should not allow this. And for it, the brass are hunting him. Probably so they can say, we're going to have to ask you to leave the RMC. Whether it's an honourable, dishonourable discharge, I don't know. But what I do know is that if the brass do get their hands on him, I suspect he is going to end up getting kicked out. Because obviously we know how the top brass work. They are on the side of the oligarchy as well. They are on the side of sectarianist traitors who would rather see this country be destroyed than actually stand tall against its enemies. And I also suspect, more than anything, these RMCs, if it did come to a civil blank, I reckon a lot of them would want to serve on our side. Because they can see what this oligarchy are doing. They can see the treachery before their very eyes. They can see that our establishment do not give a shit about their own people, and they certainly don't give a shit about our armed forces. They are so quick at the snap of one's fingers to send loads of innocent people, young lads and maybe even middle-aged men, to their deaths in a blank they shouldn't be fighting in. Maybe the brass knows full well that a civil blank is coming, and they don't want those people to be able to have access to guns, and they don't want them to have access to means to defend themselves or fight back against the establishment. Who knows? The way I look at it, we need strong armies. We need strong fighting forces, because without those, the world will crumble to its enemies. It's as simple as that. We don't want the United Kingdom to fall to treacherous bastards.